Hey, sixth grade. So on Wednesday, we talked about online sources, and I wanted to continue that topic by talking about fake news today. So those things go hand in hand. Obviously, fake news is something that is prevalent in our world today because anyone can post anything they want on the internet. So first, we're going to watch a quick 1-minute video about how to spot fake news. I'm going to go over some slides with you, and then I'll explain what I'd like you to do for today. So let's go ahead and watch the video first.
Here are 5 ways to spot fake news. Number 1, look for unusual URLs. If they end with .lo or .com.co, chances are they aren't legitimate news sites. Number 2, dissect the layout. Look for grammatical errors, incorrect dates, bold claims with no sources, and sensationalist images. These are all red flags. Number 3, dig deeper. Find out who wrote the article and who supports the site. If this information doesn't exist, or you need to register to get it, then question why. Number 4, cross-check. Use fact-checking sites to confirm information and see whether other credible news outlets are reporting similar news. Number 5, try a reverse image search. If the same picture appears in unrelated stories, you may have a reason to be suspicious. For more media literacy tips, visit us at commonsense.org.
So I know you guys have probably learned about fake news before, but it's always an important topic to review. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a few slides. So how do we find credible information on the internet? That's our question for today. I have this website here, and obviously it's making fun of Wikipedia. And while Wikipedia can be a good source for information, it can also be very bad at times. So it's really important as you're looking at sites like this to see if you think it's legitimate or not. So obviously this is goofy. A corn is a dangerous fruit that grows on a corn tree. Hopefully we all know that corn grows from the ground, not from a tree. And it's saying it's the deadliest fruit on earth, but many are unaware and gulp it down each year. So it tells you dogs think it's like meat. This is a picture of a typical ear of corn, which is not what corn actually looks like. So it's really important when you're using different websites to actually read the article and see if what it's saying is true or not. So this word credible is when something is able to be believed or trustworthy. So obviously it can be easy to just see a headline and say, oh, I think that's true, I think that's credible, but it's really important to actually read the bulk of the article because that's where they could be giving you bad information. So why might information you find on the internet not be true? Here are 3 reasons why it could not be true. Editorials, that's when anyone can write their own opinion. So that's an article that is meant to persuade the reader and try to convince them of their way of thinking. And this may include bias, which is bias is when you feel a certain way, and it could leave out important facts because they don't care about the facts, they care about you believing what they say. The next one is satire, which is kind of like sarcasm. These are articles that are meant to be funny or make fun of a subject, and they often include statements that are not true. And then finally, a hoax, which I'm sure you all know what a hoax is, but it's articles that are meant to fool the reader or trick you into believing something that isn't true, but they're trying to make it sound like it's really legit. So that's something definitely to watch out for. Another important vocabulary word is to evaluate, and that's to carefully examine something and figure out its value. So as you're looking at different sources, it's very, very, very important to evaluate the source to see if you think it's true or not. And then another word, bias, which I mentioned this in the editorial section, that's having preference for one thing over another in a way that's unfair. So we all have biases, whether we know it or not, and authors will use their own bias to try to convince you of their way of thinking. And then another word, corroboration. It's kind of hard to say, but it's an additional source that confirms or supports a news story, article, or a piece of information. So corroboration is like if you can find another source that is saying the same thing, then that will help you to decide if the article is true. So if you find more than one article telling you about that topic, then it's usually a good sign that it's something that is true. So in your activity today, you're going to be figuring out how credible something is. So if it's fake news, there are things that should be very obvious that show you that it's fake news. If the information is unbelievable, if the website is biased, it's not part of like a .gov or a .edu, which we learned about last time. The author's bio or previous articles show a bias on the issue. Remember, we talked about the author wanting to convince you of something. And if key points cannot be corroborated by other credible sites. So if they're the only one saying that one fact, then that may be a red flag to show you that it's fake news. There are going to be some sites that may seem questionable to you, and that's when it would be a good idea to reach out to an adult or to a friend to see what they think. And that's when the information may be surprising, but it's not completely unbelievable. Like you may think, oh, that could happen. Like I could see why they're saying that. The website is not part of a credible news, academic, or government organization. The author's bio or previous articles might show bias, or it might be an opinion article. And then if it's questionable, that should show you that most key points can be corroborated. And then finally, credible news, which this is the one that we are wanting to find. The information may or may not be surprising, but it does make sense. So once you're reading the article, you're not like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's like telling you that it is something that makes sense and that you could believe. And then definitely if the website is part of a credible news, academic, or government organization, the author has no clear bias and they're just reporting the facts. And then if you can corroborate the points by other credible sites. So if you see multiple sites reporting on the same story, then that should be a good sign that it's true. So it's very important to remember that we are critical thinkers and creators. Like I said at the beginning, anyone in the internet can create whatever they want. So it's really important to think critically about the news that we're seeing, and when we're creating something, to make sure that we're not putting fake news out for other people to be tricked by. So that is our presentation. The last thing I want to do is just explain to you what I'd like you to do for today. So here is the worksheet. It's called News or Fake News, and you're going to use this checklist below to evaluate the credibility of information you find online. So I found 2 articles. One is here about the census, and then one is here about cleaning products and coronavirus. So I want you to take a look at this checklist. It's important that you read closely, you analyze the source, and you figure out the author's purpose. So you're going to click on the article, and it will take you to the article. Remember, don't just read the headline. It's important to actually read the article as well. And then after you read the article, I want you to type in your answers into these boxes. So you'll answer the main idea, and you can just type right into the box. And then analyze the source, and then decide what the author's purpose was. Were they trying to persuade you of something or convince you, to inform and give you information, or to just entertain you? And then the next step is to highlight one of these. If it's fake news, you would just highlight this one, and you go up to this little highlighter here, and you can highlight it whatever color you want. I like yellow because it's nice and bright. And then, or if it's questionable, you would highlight that one. If it's credible, you'd highlight that one. And then there's just one more article here. Man just buying one of every cleaning product in case Trump announces that it's a coronavirus cure. So just read, it's a very short article, and do the same thing. Tell me the main idea of the article, what the source was if you think it's legit, and then the author's purpose, and then finally you're going to decide if it's credible or not. Okay? So that is your assignment for today. Make sure you either turn it in on Google Classroom or share it with me. If you want to share it, you would just start typing my name, E. Capello, and it will come up. Okay? So if you finish all of that and you have time, I did find a game for you to play. It says your social media feed has been infected by false information. Your job is to learn the skills of verification so you can sort fact from fiction in the game and in real life. And then it just gives you some directions here. Okay, so that's kind of a fun game to play if you have time at the end. I will have the Zoom open, so if you have a question, you can jump in there and I'll be happy to answer it for you. And I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you and talk to you again next week. Thanks.